All right, everybody. Shalom and welcome to the Israel at War update. My name is Yishai Fleischer, broadcasting to you live from south of Jerusalem, beautiful Judea, Israel. And I want to wish you a happy holiday. Today is the Sukkot holiday festival of booths. And we are indeed enjoying it because the Bible tells us this is the time of our joy. At the very same time, we are at war. And on today's update, we're going to cover three major things. The first is the elimination of Yahya Sinwar, Israel's arch enemy down in Gaza, the head of Hamas there that planned and perpetrated the October 7th massacre. The second topic we'll be covering is Prime Minister Netanyahu's very home targeted by an Iranian drone. And finally, and sadly, we'll talk about my good friend Yehuda Yahalom, who along with four of his mates from the elite Sayed Golani unit fell on the very same day that we got the good news about Yahya Sinwar. My friend fell, and we'll do a little memorial for him as well. So here we go. Lots of important stuff on today's update. Okay, Yahya Sinwar, very bad dude. He sat in Israeli prisons for 22 years. He murdered 2 Israeli soldiers and also 4 Arabs that he deemed as conspirators. So from the get-go, you understand who this guy is. He's a guy that's willing to murder his own people for his goals. Of course, he was also a multimillionaire, and he was the planner and perpetrator of the October 7th massacre. Sadly, he was released in 2011 as part of the Gilad Shalit deal, where I think 1,026 terrorists were released, folks with blood on their hands, like Sinwar, released back into their societies in order to perpetuate those crimes. The releasor, the one who wanted to see one Israeli captive released for the cost of over 1,000 hardened murderers and terrorists, was none other than Prime Minister Netanyahu. That was a grave mistake. At the time, we were dead against that. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu, after October 7th, after 1,200 Israelis were butchered, is trying to make amends and has hunted down Yahya Sinwar for the last year, and now it happened. Let's take a look at some of the final moments of Yahya Sinwar. This first video is a drone, Israeli army drone, following him to his lair in a bombed-out apartment building. Take a look. The drone is coming in, and it gets to this place. It looks there's not much there, right? But there's an image there. There's somebody sitting on that couch. And the drone is looking around, and then it spots it clearly. And Israeli army has helped us identify this. Look right now. There's a man. There's a man sitting on that couch with his back partially to the wall. And he's identifying the drone. He's got a stick in his hand. I guess something that he was able to pick up because he was already at this point pretty messed up. And he identifies the drone, and he chucks a stick and misses the drone. And that's basically the final living moment that we have of him. Take a look at that identification leading to this, maybe moments beforehand. Okay, they see a terrorist in the window, and boom, a tank shell strikes at the building, and Yahya Sinwar is killed in that strike. Okay, so we understand now what his final moments were. And there's another element that I'm a little nervous to show you, but I'm going to show it to you anyway for a second, which is that throughout this process, you're not certain that Yahya Sinwar has been actually killed, but finally he was identified just a little bit. There he is, and they looked at his body very carefully, and they could see it, and his face remains intact and easy to identify. So that is a very important moment for Israelis to be able to have seen the murderer's body and face whole and dead before our very eyes. This reminds one of the biblical verse about that the Jewish people were able to see the fallen Egyptian army that chased the Israelites into the Red Sea. The Red Sea spat them out. They were able to see their victimizers destroyed and defeated. And that is definitely the moment that we had with Yahya Sinwar. Very important kind of moment to get closure on this evil man. Also, what's very interesting is that it was not some special unit that got him, but but an everyday unit, an Israeli army unit fighting there. But everybody was able to sense that it wasn't like, some special intelligence unit or a commando unit or Air Force unit. It was a tank unit. It was just the most common of our soldiers was able to defeat the top of the bad guys. And that, of course, gives us a satisfaction of defeating our enemies. I don't mean that in some kind of cruel or macabre sense. What I mean is that Israel has been tortured by this man whose forces continue to hold on to our hostages. And here he is 1 year later, almost exactly 1 year later, defeated before us. And that is something that we thank God for. Indeed, Israelis of all walks of life celebrated. Here's the army soldiers. They're celebrating the minute they heard this by firing light up. This lights up the night and helps troops keep fighting. But they shot this in honor of the death and elimination of Yahya Sinwar. So that's soldiers on the one hand. The Rebbe, a Jewish rabbi who leads a huge congregation of Jews, Orthodox, not supposed to go to the Israeli army, to sense the great experience, saying the song of the there's the kids, followers, celebrating. This is personal. We're going to continue this theme of personal throughout today's broadcast. But here's Prime Minister Netanyahu in a very personal address to the nation of Israel and to many other groups that he's reaching out to. Let's hear him. So he says now the first people he's turning to is citizens of Israel. So he says, citizens of Israel, only a year ago, we were preparing for and we celebrated the Sukkot holiday.
באותה עת בדיוק, יחיא סנוואר עסק בהכנות האחרונות לטבח ה-7 באוקטובר.
As we were preparing for our holiday, we were celebrating our holiday, Yahya Sinwar was preparing for the October 7th massacre at that very time.
אני ניצב בפניכם היום כדי לבשר לכם שיחיא סנוואר חוסל.
I stand before you today in order to announce to you that Yahya Sinwar has been eliminated.
מי שביצע את הטבח הנורא ביותר בתולדות עמנו מאז השואה.
He who has committed the worst crime against the Jewish people since the Holocaust.
רב המרצחים שרצח אלפי ישראלים.
A mass murderer who murdered thousands of Israelis.
חטף מאות אזרחינו.
Who kidnapped hundreds of our citizens.
חוסל היום על ידי חיילינו הגיבורים.
Was destroyed today by our brave soldiers.
והיום, כפי שהתחייבנו לעשות, באנו איתו חשבון.
And today, as we promised we would, we came to an accounting with him. We did an accounting with him.
היום הרוע ספג מכה קשה.
Today, evil has been struck a mighty blow.
אבל המשימה שלפנינו עדיין לא הושלמה.
However, the mission before us is not yet completed. Now I want to add of my own words. This is a very important point that he's making, which is important to repeat. The elimination of Yahya Sinwar is certainly a great goal, an achievement of a goal, and is important for reaching the strategic victory. But it's a mistake to start believing that it's all over, that we've won, that the war can be terminated. Far from it. The war continues very strong, both in Gaza and in South Lebanon. And so his words here are in order to dissuade those people who want to be like, okay, great, the war is over. No, it's not over. We still have to, there's a lot to fight and to clean out the jihad. Let's continue.
למשפחות החטופים היקרות, אני אומר, זהו רגע חשוב במלחמה. אנחנו נמשיך בכל הכוח, עד להשבתם הביתה של כל יקיריכם, שהם יקירנו.
So he says, now he turns to a different group of people. He says, families of the hostages, this is an important milestone, but we're not going to stop until we are able to secure the release of all the hostages, which are your loved ones and our loved ones.
זו מחויבות עליונה שלנו, זו מחויבות עליונה שלי.
It is of a highest priority for us. It is of highest priority for me.
ולתושבי עזה אני אומר.
Now he turns to a completely different group of people, and he's saying, now he wants to talk directly to the residents of Gaza, to the Arabs. So this is a totally different group of people that he's reaching out to. So he says, to the residents of Gaza.
סנוואר הרס לכם את החיים.
He says, Sinwar has destroyed your life.
הוא סיפר לכם שהוא אריה,
He told you that he was a lion.
אבל בפועל הוא הסתתר במאורה חשוכה, והוא חוסל כשהוא נמלט בבהלה מחיילינו.
He told you that he was a lion, but in fact, he was hiding the whole time in tunnels and was eliminated by our soldiers as he was running in fear.
חיסולו הוא ציון דרך חשוב בשקיעת שלטון הרשע של החמאס.
His elimination is an important milestone in the elimination of the rule of Hamas.
ואני מבקש לומר שוב, בצורה הכי ברורה,
And now I ask to say clearly, in a way that is the clearest possible means,
החמאס לא ישלוט יותר בעזה.
Hamas will not rule anymore in Gaza. Gaza will not be ruled by Hamas at the end of this conflict.
זוהי תחילתו של היום שאחרי חמאס.
This is the beginnings of the day after Hamas.
וזו הזדמנות בשבילכם תושבי עזה, להשתחרר סוף סוף מעריצותו.
And this is your opportunity, residents of Gaza, to free yourselves of his oppressive rule.
למחבלי החמאס אני אומר,
But now he turns to a different group of peoples and he says to the Hamas terrorists themselves. So he's turning now, first he talked to the citizens of Israel, then he talked to the Gaza residents, now he turns to Hamas fighters.
מנהיגיכם בורחים והם יחוסלו.
Your leadership is on the run and they're going to be eliminated.
אני קורא לכל מי שמחזיק בחטופינו,
I call to anybody who is holding on to our hostages.
מי שיניח את נשקו וישיב את חטופינו, נאפשר לו לצאת ולחיות.
Whoever puts down their arms and releases our hostages, we're going to let them go free. We're going to give you safe passage. In other words, he's adding now, he's saying, look, I'm putting a deal out. Put down your weapons, release the hostages, and you could live.
ובאותה מידה אני אומר, מי שיפגע בחטופינו, דמו בראשו.
And he says, but at the same breath, on the same measure, whoever hurts our hostages, his blood is in his head, i.e., and that's a Hebrew expression meaning he's a dead man.
נבוא איתו חשבון.
We will come to an accounting with him.
השבת חטופינו היא הזדמנות להשגת כל יעדינו, והיא מקרבת את סיום המלחמה.
The return of our hostages means coming close to the fulfillment of all our war aims and goals, and it could lead to the end of the war.
לעמי האזור אני אומר,
Now he's turning to a different audience altogether, and he says, I'm turning to the nations of the Middle East.
בעזה, בביירות, ברחבי האזור כולו, החושך נסוג והאור עולה.
So he says, in Gaza and in Beirut and in the whole area, the darkness is going away and light is coming onto the scene. In other words, let me paraphrase. He's saying the end of jihadist rule is the end of darkness and light is coming onto the scene right now.
דף, הנייה, סינואר, נסראללה, מוחסן, אקיל ורבים משותפיהם אינם.
The leadership of both Hamas, I'm paraphrasing, the leadership of both Hamas and Hezbollah is eliminated. They are no longer.
אני קורא לכם,
And their allies as well. Basically saying the top leadership is gone.
עמי האזור, יש בפנינו הזדמנות גדולה לבלום את ציר הרשע וליצור עתיד אחר.
And therefore, we have an unprecedented opportunity to hit the brakes on the axis of evil, to push back on the axis of evil, and to create a different kind of future for us.
עתיד של שלום, עתיד של שגשוג באזור כולו.
A future of peace, a future of prosperity for the whole region.
ביחד אנחנו יכולים להדוף את הכללה ולקדם את הברכה.
Together, we could push back the curse and bring a time of blessing. And here I'm adding that it's Middle East type language. You know, in the Arabic world, when I speak with Arabs, I always say to them, Israel will bring barakah. Barakah means bracha in Hebrew, Arabic barakah in English, blessing. Israel is a source of blessing. And this jihad, this is this whole theme, that Yahya Sinwar brought curse upon you. Look at the place that's been cursed. Israel is a source of blessing for you. And he's saying now to the peoples of the region, if they're in Yemen, if they're in Jordan, if they're in Egypt, if they're in Iraq, if they're in Syria, Israel is your source of blessing, as opposed to these accursed rulers who are bringing a time of curse upon all of us.
כעת ברור לכולם, בארץ ובעולם, מדוע התעקשנו לא לסיים את המלחמה.
Now he's turning to a different topic very adroitly. He says, and I'll translate, he says, now it's clear to everybody why we were so adamant about fighting this war and going into Rafah when there were many who said that we should not go into this war, we should not fight this war. Now it's clear to everybody why we did it.
מדוע התעקשנו מול כל הלחצים?
Why were we so adamant against all the pressures that we faced?
כן להיכנס לרפיח.
Yes, to enter,
המעוז המבוצר של החמאס,
which is a stronghold, a fortress of the Hamas.
בו הסתתרו סינואר ורבים מרבי המרצחים.
This is where Sinwar hid and many of the arch murderers were hiding out.
מבקש להביע הערכה עמוקה ללוחמי צה"ל והשב"כ ולמפקדיהם על
So let me just add that what he was saying was very important. He was saying there were a lot of people against me saying that we should not go into Rafah. But I knew that if we go into Rafah, we're going to catch the bad guys because that's where they're holding out. And he's saying this to the Israeli left, and he's saying this to the American administration. He's saying, you guys were all against me going into Rafah. You thought there was going to be, mass casualties. But in the end, we had to do it in order to get rid of the terrorists. And there wasn't really mass casualties like the ones that you predicted. There was casualties, certainly. And I don't mean to make light of it, but it was not the catastrophe that you made it out. Bottom line is we had to go in, and I had to overcome a lot of pressures.
פעולתם הנחושה והאמיצה, אין טובים מהם.
And then he turns to another group of people and he says, I want to thank the General Security Services, the Shabak, the Mossad, the IDF, and the Special Forces, all the folks, and the Air Force. I want to thank all of the fighters. There's nobody as good as them. They are the best.
היום שוב הבהרנו מה קורה לאלה שפוגעים בנו.
Once again, today we showed what happens to those who strike at us, who hit us.
היום שוב הראינו לעולם את ניצחון הטוב על הרע.
Once again, we have shown the world what the victory of good over evil looks like. And that's his theme today, which is light versus darkness, blessing versus curses. And we have shown once again through the mighty hand of the IDF that indeed enemies can be destroyed. But he's not just done thanking the IDF and the security forces, he's going to thank God as well.
אבל המלחמה יקיריי, טרם הסתיימה.
But the war, says Prime Minister Netanyahu, the war, my dear ones, is yet to be done. It's far from done.
והיא קשה, והיא גובה מאיתנו מחירים כבדים.
It is a heavy war. It is a hard war, and it takes from us a heavy toll, a heavy price.
אני מבקש להביע מעומק ליבי את תנחומיי למשפחות שאיבדו את יקיריהן.
I want to, from the depths of my heart, issue condolences to families who have lost their loved ones. And in parentheses, I'm adding that we'll see at the end of today's program here that at the very day where Sinwar was eliminated, 5 Israeli soldiers were killed, including a good friend of mine.
אני מבקש לחבק את משפחות גיבורינו שנפלו.
I want to embrace the families of our heroes who have fallen.
הקרבתם העילאית, כולל בימים האחרונים, מקרבת אותנו לניצחון.
Their massive self-sacrifice, including in the last few days, and that's what he's hinting to, is bringing us closer to the ultimate victory.
כדברי דוד המלך, ארדפה אויביי ואשמידם.
And now he's quoting the Bible, and he says, as the words of King David, I will chase my enemies and I will destroy them. I will vanquish them.
ולא אשוב עד כלותם.
And I shall not return until their full destruction, their full vanquishment.
אזרחי ישראל,
Citizens of Israel,
אנחנו במלחמת התקומה. אתגרים גדולים עוד
we are in a war of a struggle of standing up against, of defiance.
לפנינו. אנו
And we have many challenges yet before us.
נדרשים לאורך רוח,
We need a deep breath. We need patience. We need fortitude.
לאחדות השורות,
To unity in the lines, unity of the Jewish people and of pro-Israel people around the world.
לאומץ לב, לעמידה
For courage, for strong stance.
איתנה. יחד נילחם,
Together we shall fight.
ובעזרת השם, יחד ננצח.
And with the help of God, we will be victorious together as well. A very powerful speech from Prime Minister Netanyahu. And it's important to note, Prime Minister Netanyahu, as I said before, on the one hand, he's a wartime leader, the commander-in-chief. And on the other hand, he's also trying to clean up his role in allowing the enemies to build up underneath our noses and to create a military infrastructure underneath our noses and get armed and be able to attack us. And so this is a long time in coming. And I think that it's important to understand that Prime Minister Netanyahu is doing an amazing job throughout this war and continuing to push forward. But he also knows that if he doesn't, he will not clean his record of allowing this war to be prepared against us. So that's Prime Minister Netanyahu. Sinwar is dead. Israelis are celebrating, and the war continues. And that's really the other part of that message, which is like, the war continues, guys. Don't relax now. Don't think to yourself, okay, we killed the bad guy, so it's all over. No, the war certainly continues, and there's a lot more. And indeed, throughout this period, even after the announcement of Sinwar's elimination, there has been more Israeli killed, more soldiers have been attacked, more rockets have been launched against the north of Israel, more terror acts, and we have a long while to go until we can claim total victory with the help of God of the elimination of jihadist forces in our land. As Israel attacks the leadership of the Iranian proxies of Hamas and Hezbollah, and the Americans also bomb the Houthis in Yemen, as I was saying, the war continues unabated. And the Iranians fire a drone through their Lebanese proxy onto Prime Minister Netanyahu's home. Here's a video of a drone that was sent from South Lebanon, directed by Iran, towards the house of Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel. So take a look at this. Here comes a drone. And this drone is coming underneath a chopper that's patrolling. And it overtakes the chopper that's flying faster than it. And the chopper identifies this drone flying. Suddenly the air raid siren goes off. And this drone continues all the way to the house of the prime minister. And it explodes on the outside of the house, breaking glass. There was fortified glass that didn't break through, but it definitely smashed it up. Some trees were cut. And so, you know, this was a well-organized attack of a drone that was not caught early. It was only seconds of the air raid siren, and the prime minister was indeed in the home, in that residence. And so this could have been catastrophic, but it didn't happen. But that is the level of intensity of this conflict, and it's personal. It's personal. It's going on leadership to leadership. And so Israeli leadership has got to be defended, and we've got to take note of the fact that they have the capability to bypass Israeli air defenses, and that air defense missed this and could have been catastrophic. Here's another near miss. Oh my gosh, check a look at this video. Here's this happens in the north. Boom. Let me show you this again so you see what happens. There's a police officer. He just left his police car. He comes out, and then boom, and a massive ramming incident, and no Israelis were hurt in this case, but the terrorist was killed on impact. But that just goes to show you what we're dealing with here. Here's another incident that happened in Haifa area, in an area called Kiryat Ata, where a rocket from the north struck a neighborhood, a residential neighborhood, and ended up killing one Israeli, injuring 7, and many were spared. Take a look at this. Okay, so 7 were lightly injured, and the civilians behaved properly. Look at these cars. Look at the damage. Wow, that building looked really, really broken down. Look what happened to that building from a rocket attack from the north. This is a residential area in Haifa, very normative part of normal Israel. He says during the second siren, we went down the staircase and we saw a lot of older folks who are confused. We helped them get to the safe room. We closed the door. We stood next to the door. And then we felt a massive, unbelievable explosion. We understood that it was on our block. When we came out 10 minutes later, we saw all the damage that happened around us. So the safe room saved them. I went down, when there was a first siren that morning, I went down to the safe room. In this case, I didn't. I stayed on my couch, kind of sleeping. Suddenly, I saw the window explode all over me, and I ran downstairs into the safe room. And if I didn't go down, then I wouldn't have been here today. I wouldn't be here today because that running down saved me from another explosion. It would have been different had I not gone down. So this is who's issuing this video is Israel's civil defense, making sure that people follow the civil defense orders. So the point is that Israel's war is certainly aggressive. We're certainly killing the bad guys, and we're in Lebanon, we're in Gaza, and we're controlling parts of it, but the war continues unabated. And Israel's air defense is not foolproof. It's not like we're going to totally be able to catch all those missiles, and Israelis have to be aware of that, and the fight goes on, and even the prime minister's house is not totally safe, and we still have to destroy all the infrastructure that the enemy has built up to attack Israel. Okay, finally on today's program is what I've been alluding to the whole time, which is we had great victory over Yahya Sinwar. Thank Hashem, thank God, and thank the IDF. But we've also had losses, and the Prime Minister alluded to that as well. And in this case, just like getting Yahya Sinwar was personal, and then attacking Prime Minister Netanyahu's house is personal, so too for me, the end of the program is personal. Because a friend of mine, Yehuda Yahalom, was killed on the very same day that Yahya Sinwar was eliminated. Yehuda Yahalom was half my age, but we were always friends. I know his family very well from Hebron, and he had worked with me on a few different projects of putting down some AstroTurf and other kind of beautification projects. And he was very handy from young age, and also was gifted with a very calm manner, but a leadership type manner, which other young people followed him. And it was therefore not surprising that he got into his physical prowess and his leadership abilities. It was not surprising to me that he got into one of Israel's most elite units, the Sayeret Golani unit, which is the recon unit of the Golani Brigade. And he was there for 2 years, very hard unit to get into, very tough physical training. And then 2 months ago, he got married to his beloved Shachar in one of the happiest weddings I've ever been to. I was there. And on the holiday of Sukkot, on the first day, we got the dark news, the sad news, that Yehuda and his mates, 4 of his mates, had fallen. Here's just a little for you to taste the bittersweetness of it all. Here's the wedding of Yehuda Yahalom and his bride Shachar. And I was there. Here they are dancing together. And they're being picked up in the track. There's Yehuda. dancing the tractor dance because we're building this land. So there's Yehuda and Shachar dancing the tractor dance at their wedding. But sadly, Yehuda was killed. Here's some footage from the funeral. This is in Hebron at the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs. Thousands of people showed up. There's this ancient site that houses the tombs of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca, Jacob, and Leah. And minister in the government, Orit Struk, is speaking to thousands of people. And she's talking about all the young people that gave their bodies in self-sacrifice. We have to ask God, our God in heaven, that these should be the last offerings, the last sacrifices. So that was at the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs, but he wasn't buried there. We walked about 20 minutes to the ancient cemetery, and finally his mates in the Golani Brigade gave him a gun salute. It was a beautiful and very painful funeral, but at the same time, he died like a hero, fighting for his land. It was very hard to see his new wife just so broken, Shachar, but his friends said that they promised to make sure that she would get back up again and be strong. And she said, "I was never afraid when I was with you." And I thought that was a very, very poignant moment. And I want you to notice the image there where the lady's bag is. Right next to there is a row of tombs, and that's the tombs of the fallen in the 1929 Hebron riot massacre, in which jihadists killed, raped, maimed, burnt, did everything bad, and murdered 67 Jews in Hebron. In other words, 100 years ago, it was the same thing that the jihadists wanted to do, which was to destroy us, but we continued to survive and be strong. I am loath to finish this program on a sad note, so I wanted to share with you the spirit of Israel that continues to fight and that continues to know its rights, its justice, and its God, and sometimes that is expressed best through music. Here is famous Israeli singer Eyal Golan at an army base singing Am Yisrael Chai, and that the nation of Israel will live eternally because God is He who protects us. Here is Eyal Golan, famous Israeli singer, with an Israeli army troop at an Israeli army base. Am Yisrael Chai. So the song is Am Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel lives. Hashem is protecting us, so who can defeat us? Because Hashem is protecting us. Please bring peace upon us, protect our soldiers. And that's Israeli IDF soldiers singing the song with such passion, with such awakening. The war will continue. There's still a lot more for us to fight and to get rid of all the Israel haters from this land and from around our borders, so that Israel could live securely and so that this region will actually prosper. As the Prime Minister correctly noted, the strength of Israel, Israeli strength, is actually prosperity and peace for this region, because jihadism is a regressive ideology that destroys the local populations and fills them with hate, which is a destructive power. And indeed, Israel pushing back on that is good for Israel, is good for the region, and good for the world. Folks, let's finish off strong. I want to thank you and bless you. If you want to bless me back and be part of our broadcasting, please check out buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. And that's a great way to support this show with small donations and support. It makes a difference, and it makes a difference physically and spiritually as well. You send me a blessing, I send it right back to you. And so does all of Israel. So God bless you wherever you are. If you want to strengthen the Jewish community of Hebron, then learn more about it. Hebron is where the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs are buried. Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Jacob and Leah. Check out this beautiful place, which I have the great merit to work in every single day. This website, hebronfund.org, will teach you more about it, show you great videos, and help you tour there, and of course, give you an opportunity to support. Finally, actually semi-finally, right before finally, fightforisrael.org, beautification of the land of Israel and spreading Torah to the world. It's very simple, fightforisrael.org, right? I think the words speak for themselves, fight for Israel. And finally, if you want to be in touch with me, please write me an email, yishai@yishaifleischer.com. And if you would like to try to book me for an event, maybe that'll be possible. I'd love to speak with your congregation or your group or your folks. So send me an email and we'll be sure to get in touch with you. Finally, very, very finally, thank you, God, for the opportunity to be able to broadcast to you. Thank you for my team that helps make it happen. And thank you, Hashem, for this time that we're living in where we're putting up a fight against our enemies. There have been millennia where we didn't have the power to fight. Now God is giving us the right to fight, but the eternity of Israel will not lie. We continue to survive throughout the ages, and now back in our land, which is the greatest miracle in modern times, the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. Thank you for being part of it wherever you are. Keep up the fight yourself. Keep telling the truth. Don't let anybody stop you. Keep broadcasting that truth because there's a physical war and there's a narrative war, and we got to push out there the truth. That truth will be like a disinfectant for all those lies that are out there. God bless you, folks, wherever you are. Stay tuned and stay strong, and shalom.